In verse 6, Moshe commanded that they proclaim throughout the camp, saying, men and women shall not do more work toward the gift of the sanctuary. Not allowed to donate anymore. It's not necessary. Thank you. We don't need any more donations. And the people were restrained from bringing. He had to actually put guards and say, no more donations. And the work had been enough, meaning the donations were enough for all the work to do it, and there was extra. Work begins. Verse 8, all the wise-hearted among those doing the work made the tabernacle, 10 curtains of linen, twisted with turquoise, purple, and scarlet wool. They made them with a woven design of cherubs. And then it goes into more details of how they were attached together. We turn to page 523, verse 14. We read about the second roof of goat hair. He made curtains of goat hair for a tent over the tabernacle. He made them 11 curtains. And again, more details are given. Verse 19, the third and the fourth roofs are described. He made a cover for the tent of red-dyed ram hides and a cover of tachash hides on top. In verse 20 and on, we speak about the planks, the wooden planks. He made the planks for the tabernacle of acacia wood standing erect. They were standing upright instead of being horizontal, one on top of each other. 10 cubits was the height of the plank. 10 cubits is 15 feet. The height of the Mishkan was 15 feet. And a cubit and a half was the width of each plank. And the width of the plank was about 2 feet. It was a very wide plank, even more than the screen allows. 2 feet wide beams, very large beams, and 15 feet, very heavy. That is why we will learn that when time came to stand them up, no one could pick them up. They were so heavy. And Moshe told Hashem, how should we build it? And Hashem said, never be afraid, just try. And Moshe went and he just put his hands and the beam went up by itself. Now, verse 24, he made 40 silver sockets under the 20 planks. As we explained, that each beam was standing on silver bases. 2 bases under each beam. Verse 31, he made bars of acacia wood. The bars were going across each wall. Two bars were visible, one on top of the height of the wall towards the top, and one towards the bottom, going across all the planks, connecting all the planks together. And there was a middle bar going through the planks. In the middle, that was invisible. They would bore a hole through the planks, which was miraculous in itself. Imagine you have a 2-foot wide beam, and you have to drill a hole through it so that you can insert a wooden pole. A wide hole, you have to drill a smooth hole, and the hole has to be same height on all 20 beams. A very difficult job. And similarly, it was on the southern wall, on the northern wall, and western wall. Whereas the eastern wall did not have the solid wall, rather it had a curtain. Okay, now we are in verse 35, the partition. The curtain separating the holy from the Holy of Holies. He made the partition of turquoise, purple, and scarlet wool, and linen. They were twisted together. He made it with a woven design of cherubs. He made for it 4 pillars of acacia wood, and plated them with gold. Their hooks were gold, and he cast for them 4 sockets of silver. So there were 4 pillars in front of the doorway, and upon them was hung the curtain. Now, verse 37 on the bottom of the page, we learn about the screen. This is the outer partition that separates the holy from the courtyard. For the entrance of the tent, he made a screen of turquoise, purple, and scarlet wool and linen, twisted, work of an embroider. Its pillars were 5, with their hooks, and he plated their tops and their bands with gold, and their sockets were 5 of copper. Now, we're on page 525, chapter 37. We now speak about the utensils that were manufactured. Bezalel made the ark, the holy ark of acacia wood. It gives the dimensions. Verse 2. He covered it with pure gold on the inside, on the outside, and he made for it a gold crown all around. He made 4 gold rings, into which he will insert the staves, the poles of acacia wood, and he covered the poles with gold as well. Now, verse 6, we speak about the cover for the ark. He made a cover of pure gold. Verse 7, he made 2 cherubs of gold, the 2 childlike statues of angels facing each other, standing on top of the ark. Hammered out did he make them from the 2 ends of the cover. And what did these cherubs represent? The one on the right represented God, and the one on the left represented the Jewish people. And they were facing each other, and their wings were spread towards each other, and they were touching each other over the ark. That represented the love and connection between God and the Jewish people. And the Talmud says that in times of good, they were facing each other. However, when the Jewish people would sin, these cherubs would miraculously turn away from each other. And therefore, the Jewish people knew exactly what Hashem thinks about them. If the cherubs faced each other, they knew that God approves of their actions. And if they faced away from each other, they knew that God is upset at them. Now on verse 10, we speak about the table, the shulchan. He made the table of acacia wood. Its dimensions are given. He covered it with pure gold and made for it a gold crown all around. The table had rings into which the poles were inserted as well. Verse 16, he made the utensils that were on the table, its dishes, its spoons, its pillars, and its shelving tubes, with which it was covered, of pure gold. Now in verse 17, the menorah is constructed. He made the menorah of pure gold. Hammered out did he make the menorah. The menorah was not made from melted gold and poured into a mold, which would be easy. Instead, it was hammered, very tedious, very hard work. And our sages say that Bezalel didn't know how to do it. And Hashem said, don't worry, just start. And he picked up his little hammer and started banging. And miraculously, the menorah started taking shape. And the menorah had a base and a shaft and cups and knobs and flowers and 6 branches. There were 7 lamps, 1 on a central shaft and 3 on each side. There were almond designs. Now we turn to page 527. Verse 23, he made its lamps 7 and its tongues to remove the burnt out wick, and spoons of pure gold. Of a talent of pure gold did he make it, and all its utensils. A talent is approximately 150 pounds. So the menorah and the utensils were made from 150 pounds of gold. Now, verse 25, we learn about the incense altar, the golden altar. He made the incense altar of acacia wood. Verse 26, he covered it with pure gold, and he made for it a gold crown all around. It also had golden rings for the poles. Verse 28, he made the staves of acacia wood and covered them with gold. He made the anointment oil to anoint all the utensils and the garments and kohanim. And the incense spices, the ketoret, pure, a perfumer's handiwork. Chapter 38, we learn about the elevation offering altar. He made the elevation offering altar of acacia wood. Verse 3, it was made of wood and covered with copper. He made all the utensils of the altar, the pots, the shovels, the basins, the forks, and the fire pans. He made all its utensils of copper. More details are given. And now in verse 8, we speak about the laver, the wash basin. He made the laver of copper and its base of copper from the mirrors of the legions who amassed themselves at the entrance of the tent of meeting. What is this all about? You make a wash basin from mirrors. How is that possible? So in olden times, mirrors were made from metal, either gold for the king's daughter, or from silver for a prince's daughter, a leader's daughter, or from copper for regular people. And every woman had a copper mirror, which was polished so much that you could see your own reflection in it. And when the women women heard that copper is needed for the Beit HaMikdash, they said, I will give to Hashem the most precious copper utensil that I have. It's not a cup and it's not a bowl. It is my precious mirror that I beautify myself for my husband. And Hashem said, I want to use them for purification of Kohanim. Take these mirrors and melt them down, and don't use them not for the cover of the altar, not for the utensils. Make the wash basin, make the laver that purifies Kohanim, that allows them to become fit for service. At the beginning, Moshe didn't want to accept it. He said what kind of thoughts they had when they were beautifying themselves. Maybe they wanted to beautify themselves for other men, God forbid. And Hashem said, I can testify that these Jewish women are righteous, and they only had pure thoughts for their husbands, and therefore these mirrors are holy. Now, in verse 9, we learn about the construction of the courtyard walls from lace hangings. He made the courtyard on the south side, the lace hangings of the courtyard of twisted linen, 100 cubits. Their pillars were 20 and their sockets 20 of copper, as well as hooks and their bands of silver. And similarly, on the north side, 100 cubit, about 150 feet long. Now we turn to page 529. On the west side as well, there were lace hangings of 50 cubits, about 75 feet. Their pillars 10 and their sockets 10. And their hooks and bands of silver. And on the eastern side, there were some lace hanging curtains for walls, as well as there was the central area without those hangings, and there was a screen for the doorway. On the eastern side, 50 cubits, out of which 15 cubits were lace hangings at one shoulder, and 15 cubit lace hangings on the other shoulder, with the middle, so 15 plus 15, that's 30, and the entire length was 50, so the middle area for the doorway was 20. And that is described in verse 18. The screen of the gate of the courtyard was embroider's work of turquoise, purple, and scarlet wool and twisted linen, 20 cubits in length, and the height in the width was 5 cubits, corresponding to the lace hangings of the courtyard. So the height of that screen was 5 cubits, which is about 7.5, 8 feet, and the length was 20 cubits, about 35 feet. Verse 19, their pillars 4 and their sockets 4 of copper. That's for the screen of the doorway. Their hooks of silver, and the plating of their tops and their bands silver. All the pegs of the tabernacle and the courtyard all around were copper. This concludes Parshat Pekudei. Next week concludes Parshat Vayakhel. Next week we will learn Parshat Pekudei about the final making of garments of Kohanim, and the accounting of all the material to show that the Jewish people were honest and they used all the materials that were donated. Now, this week we have a special Shabbat. It is called Parashat Shekalim. So, in addition to reading regular Parshat Vayakhel, we also are going to read a special section for Maftir, which is called Parashat Shekalim. And that is actually, we're going back 1 week, and we're going to read the first section of Parashat Kitisa, which speaks about the 3 donations that the Jewish people gave. And the reason for this is double. Number 1 is when Rosh Chodesh Adar comes, and this coming week is going to be Rosh Chodesh Adar Bet, 2nd Adar, which is the month before Nisan. 1 month before Nisan, announcements went out throughout Israel to make donations, their yearly donations, to be used for next year for all the offerings, so that every Jew participates in every offering throughout the year. And the Jewish people were given 1 month to voluntarily bring the donations to Yerushalayim. And they had special collection chests in every town, so that if you don't want to travel to Yerushalayim, you can bring it to your local collection site, and then officials, a delegation would be sent to Yerushalayim to bring all the collected shekalim. Every person had to give half a shekel coin, one coin worth half a shekel, for every member of his family. As reason number 2 why we read Parshat Shekalim before Rosh Chodesh Adar is because we want to make a donation in atonement for our soul, for our life before Purim, because we know that Haman gave Achashverosh a large sum of silver, of money, to receive the exclusive right to kill the Jews. And we say to Hashem, we are going to give money to cancel out the money of Haman, and we're going to give this money before Haman. We're going to give it before Purim, and that is another reason why we read Parashat Shkalim, to remind the Jewish people to protect yourself. Make this donation for the Korbanot. Next week we're going to have Parashat Pekudei, and it will also be Rosh Chodesh, and then the following week we will have the Shabbat before Purim, Parshat Vayikra, and also it will be a special Shabbat. It will be called Parashat Zachor. We will read about the commandment to destroy Amalek and always remember about what they did. So this week is the beginning of what we call the 4 special weeks: Parashat Shekalim, Parashat Zachor. Then we will skip 1 week after that. We'll celebrate Purim, and then after that we'll have another special week. It's going to be called Parashat Para, and then again the following week is Parashat HaChodesh. The Shabbat before Rosh Chodesh Nisan is called Parashat HaChodesh, where we read a special portion about sanctification of the new moon. And this all starts this coming week. Men should make an effort to attend synagogue, even if they usually don't, specifically this week because we read a special Torah portion. Women are not obligated. However, the week before Purim, when we read Parashat Zachor, it is actually a Torah commandment, an obligation for all men to attend the reading, and many women try. It's good for women to go as well, but not this week. Thank you for listening. Shabbat Shalom umevorach.